I think we're going to see a change in direction. President Obama, and I've been very critical of him for this, he has this policy of unilateral concessions. All of our enemies seem to get whatever they ask for, and our country gets very little in return. And it really shouldn't work that way. I agree with negotiating. I mean, sometimes negotiations yield good results, but they have to yield good results for both parties, not just for one party. And whether it's Iran or Cuba, we've really seen that under the Obama administration, where these enemies of the United States just ask and ask, and they get and they get, and we don't get anything for it. The peoples of those countries certainly don't get anything for it, because they're as bad a shape as they've always been. So I think we're going to see a change in direction. I do think that under this new administration, we're going to see better deals, hopefully, which is something that Mr. Trump promised during the campaign. I am focused specifically, and I have been for some time now, on reforming our Cuban refugee policy. Today, any Cuban who arrives in the United States is automatically treated like a political refugee, meaning someone who is fleeing persecution and cannot return to their country. So that grants them access to a number of welfare benefits.
No, real quick, that you're referring to the Cuban Adjustment Act.
Well, it's
No?
actually separate from
Okay.
the Cuban Adjustment Act, because it deals with people once they're here already. So they are two separate issues, but it's part of our broader Cuba immigration policy. So there's a lot of abuse in this policy. For example, there are people living in Cuba today who are cashing U.S. welfare checks. Their relatives here in the United States cash their checks or receive the funds by transfer, and then send them this money in Cuba. That was not the intention of this generous policy. So we want to make sure that we do help those people who are the victims of political persecution. There are plenty of them in Cuba. The Castro government still beats people and imprisons people. So the benefits should go to help those people if they flee to our country, but we can't have people living in Cuba on U.S. welfare. We can't have people coming to our country over the age of 65 and getting Social Security for life despite never having worked here. That's all wrong. So I'm working on changing that, and my bill is called the Cuban Immigrant Work Opportunity Act. Why? Because it does guarantee that any Cuban who comes to the United States can get a work permit and get to work and contribute to our economy. But the welfare benefits should be reserved for those who are truly fleeing political persecution and can't return to Cuba.